the Rams get instant veteran leadership with Stetson Bennett.
I mean, his name, is there a more southern name?
Stetson.
Stetson, Mama's got a fig pie on the windowsill. You want
you
to grab that from Mama?
Fig pie.
Stetson, do Mama a favor. Grab that laundry off of the laundry line out there.
But I think
with
that
Daddy.
it's probably evident that, like, they probably had servants. Like, his family, that's a name. That's a name that says Southern plantation owner.
We're here.
So he's giving you some Leo from Django Unchained vibes.
We're here. We are the Bennetts.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're back, Guys on Sports, once again. Missing Zach, but we shall press on. I'm liking the gear, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
It is.
Go Rangers.
It's official now.
You've joined us.
You like it too?
Come on, you joined us.
That's
Come
absurd.
on.
I think he's never found me more attractive than right now.
No, you
probably.
look pretty good.
I want to know where do you find a corduroy hat at?
Man, I tell you what,
you don't know about stuff
they,
like
they had a throwback hat on 47. And I was like, snapped it up when I got your Yankees hat.
I wanted to get that.
Yeah.
I should have got that.
Yeah,
The
when I got your
corduroy.
Yankees hat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's low-key the truth.
You've been wearing the same hat for like 10 years.
Does it?
You know about
Does
it.
it?
Hey.
When you're driving and your head hits the ceiling, does it make that like the zip 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 sound?
You know that sound. So
What sound is
here's
that?
the truth now.
What
I
sound?
bought both of these for you.
You never.
And when I opened the package,
You
this
said,
was so nice. I'm
yeah.
like, screw him. I'm
Yeah,
keeping
no,
this.
that was a good call. I would have kept it too.
Yeah.
You know, when you're wearing corduroys with your ham hocks that are sliding together and it makes that zip sound. Zip zip zip
Wow.
zip zip zip
You know,
zip zip.
I could pull off corduroys, so
Yeah.
Real tight ones. Little.
I could pull off pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
It's funny because when Mark wears corduroys, he can't pull them off. He needs help.
What do you pull? Who are you pulling him off of?
Come on, man. See, we got to go gay. We got to go right away gay.
Hey,
Gay
women
right
wear
away.
corduroy too.
When do you start working again, Mark?
He started, man. He's
Yeah,
gainfully
I'm doing
employed.
Orientation now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's painful, man.
This conversation right now is painful, but
Yeah.
Hey.
it is what it is.
Sitting on a computer, listening to people just
Talk about Chick-fil-A.
spew corporate CYA stuff for 8.5 hours.
Yeah, so why don't we get into our show
Shoot me.
outline, guys? All right.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about our top 5 Dynasty rookies.
Got a lot of feedback.
A lot of a lot of feedback.
Pretty good feedback.
Yeah,
Most people
think you're an idiot, Mark, for
Do they
some
really?
reason. I think, listen, a lot of casuals out there.
Yeah.
Very lot.
Very
immense amount
Well,
of
you
casuals.
You said it right. Very lot.
Very lot.
Fair lot, yeah.
This week we're going to talk about our top 5 Dynasty quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking back on our rankings last week, I think one of these quarterbacks could have broke that top 5.
So I don't know about you, and I don't know about Mark, but my issue was, but I didn't know which one. I still one thing I want to say about this top 5
We're gonna
is
say a lot.
It's going to change.
might.
It's going to change as we see him in camp, as we see what's going on. So last week, I didn't feel strong enough about any of these to say this one deserves to crack the top 5.
Me neither, but I think this week I feel differently. But we could talk about that on a future episode. So let's just get it started. Oh, wait. I gotta play our sounder for our Dynasty breakthrough if I can find it. And I'm gonna have to remind me to edit a lot of this out, guys.
Yeah. Well,
This is
everything
pretty-
on there is magic. So I don't
No,
know
it was
if
pretty stale. I gotta be honest.
Come on.
All right,
Our
so
Christmas one is still on there.
no, I'm not playing it. All right, so let's get into our fantasy. Come on, baby. I need you this week. I need you. It's your time. Time for a breakout. Oh yeah.
I think we just lost half our viewers. They're taking the girls into the room.
Probably.
Or the guys.
Or the
Yeah,
guys.
it's 2023. Hey, we don't care.
No,
Yeah.
we don't
What
care
you
at
do
all.
at your house, hey.
It'd be amazing because it hasn't even aired yet, so they're just sensing that emotion right there,
Sensing
that
the
vibe.
sex in there.
Sensing the
They were
sex.
like, it's like the spidey sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you like,
What is that? Where's that coming from?
Like I always say, if you heard that
Like
song
getting
in a
down.
club, I mean, the mood's changing.
That's
Bathrooms are filling up.
That's last call.
Yeah.
You play that right at last call.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
Ease on out the
people
door.
being taken home that wouldn't be taken home normally because they heard that song and it got them all.
And I challenge the fact that there wouldn't be sex in the champagne room at that point either.
Oh yeah,
I think
sure.
100% there's sex in the champagne room.
Yeah, behind the ropes.
Extra sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Extra
that's
champagne.
That's the game. That's the sealer. That's the
There'd
shot
be-
at the end of the.
There'd be
shot clock.
champagne in the sex room is what that translates to.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. So Mark, why don't you tell us to start with number one with
Dynasty
your top rated
quarterbacks.
Dynasty fantasy rookie quarterback.
All right. So I hinted at this before in previous episodes.
Nobody was listening.
I don't know, man. There was a huge response on TikTok from my running backs, and guess what? Kudos to like 20% of you that get why that list is important and fantastic. To the other 80% of you,
Kudos.
go screw yourselves.
Yeah,
because it'll win you leagues. If you don't like money, don't listen to it. You like money, listen to it.
Hey, but listen, this is what I'll
Anyway.
say. Don't screw yourselves. Just listen.
yeah, listen.
Or that.
Just
Yeah,
listen.
Listen.
Let us explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Good-
I know
good
who
cop,
Mark's
bad
going to
cop.
go with his number one quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
I
I'm-
just feel.
probably
Well, I mean,
where I'm
I've
gonna go?
only said it like 10
Well, you've been
times.
all over this guy.
I have.
He
So,
loves being all over.
His attributes are incredible. I like Anthony Richardson. I like what this kid's doing. I like his attitude. He's got the right attitude to come in. He's coming into a pretty decent setup right away. It's been a quarterback graveyard the last few seasons. So I think he inherits a young, hungry team that's over, quarterback corpses coming in there. And I think right away he's going to be a major factor. I don't think he'll even sit behind Minshew at all. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to start right out of the gate. I think the leadership right off the bat has been incredible. Provided that he's able to, if his accuracy is there by the end of the preseason, I don't see why he wouldn't start because the guy's he's big, he's athletic, he's mobile, he's hard to bring down, and he's got a hell of an arm, man. And I think he's got a fantastic future in Indianapolis. There we go.
Big
Got it.
question, though. Is
Nailed
he going
it.
to grow a mustache?
He should
Because
grow
to
a
compete
mustache.
with Gardner, he's going to have to grow a mustache.
You know what? At this point, I think Gardner's got to compete with him. Maybe Gardner's got to shave his mustache.
Yeah, maybe.
Or add 20 pounds and 4 inches.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right, so who's your guy, buddy?
Yeah, so that's not and I was going to ask you guys, like, what we're seeing here is strategy, right? So, like, when you go for Dynasty, are you going, you mentioned it last week, are you going for somebody that you feel confident in for 4 years that you can sign and keep them on your roster, or are you going for an immediate hit?
I think, well, yeah, obviously you got to decide what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I think the smart player is looking at both. I think you're not only looking at the player and his attributes, as Mark said, but you're looking at situation.
Right.
You're looking at situation down the road.
Yeah.
You're looking at what draft capital they have coming, in the next few years to surround the quarterbacks with talent, et cetera, the offensive line. So there's a lot of stuff to look at when you're projecting out. If you feel like you're a championship now team and you just want to plug, I mean, I don't know if any of these guys fit that mold, but, yes, there's different strategies.
Yeah.
It's short-term, long-term, all that stuff. I think the guys at the top of this list more prominently are, going to get immediate impact and going forward.
So that's why AR is not my number one, because unlike Mark, I don't think they're just going to rush him in. Like, I think he could be mid-season before he's the guy, because Gardner there's nothing wrong with Gardner. He's a competent starting quarterback. So my quarterback is somebody who, if he was just 3 inches or 4 inches taller,
Yeah.
it'd be he would have been the unanimous, even more so, number one pick. He was the number one pick, but he would have been they would have been talking about this is a generational quarterback.
Yes.
He's fast. He's accurate. He's a quick processing quarterback.
Furious?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young.
So now he's small. It's only 5'10", and I don't care what anybody says. He's 5'10". He's shorter than Roger, and Roger is 5'11".
Who's Roger?
Roger Goodell.
Oh, Roger Goodell. Okay.
So when you side by side,
Say Goodell. Do you know him
Goodell.
personally? You
I
call
do.
him Roger?
I do. When we talk, I call him Roger. When we
that
talk
makes
about
sense.
the draft, after
Big R? Raj?
Big R, yeah, I call him sometimes Big R when we're having a little cognac after the draft.
Getting
on a
familiar?
Zoom call. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, so Bryce Young is it. I think
you get to call your picks in the little R.
I need you tonight. Anyways, so Bryce Young is it. I think he's going to be an immediate day one starter. I think he's going to have kind of a Kyler Murray type explosion.
All right, so here's the
All right.
You're very sensual
Boom.
tonight. So
You are torqued.
he's not my number one
Yeah.
either. I don't know if I'm going to push back on him yet. I'll counterpoint when I bring him up later.
Yeah.
But I have Richardson as my number one too. I think Richardson is starting week 1 or week 2.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make him sit for Gardner Minshew.
Sounds like a side bet.
Yeah, maybe. They've been on that train for too long with these repurposed quarterbacks. They went and got their guy, and I think there's a few things. Accuracy definitely needs to be worked on. But
Big time.
guess what? I don't care about accuracy when I'm drafting my fantasy quarterback. I care about a guy
You're caring
that
about a
has
guy
the
that can
frame.
run.
He's going to get, he's going to run. He's going to get carries inside the 5-yard line. He has the attributes to make off schedule. He's going to make plays. But the rushing upside is there.
Yeah.
They're not going to bench the guy. And I think he has a better supporting cast than people are giving the Colts credit for. Solid line, probably a little overrated, but you still got JT there.
Still top 10.
I liked Alec Pierce last year. I think he's a little underrated.
Yeah.
Pittman's good.
Pittman's good. I like the Downs pick this year. I think he's going to be productive out of all of these guys. I mean, we'll get to the other guys, but I just think as far as talent goes, ceiling, I think you're going to get something out of him this year. But I think probably has the highest upside of any of the guys.
Yeah. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I do think he has the highest upside. To me, I think Bryce is somebody who's going to maybe start quicker because he is accurate, does process.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a decent line in Carolina, to be honest with you. I don't think
They're
it's
okay.
a terrible line.
No, they're not bad.
I think that I like some of the pieces they put around him. You mentioned the receiver that they got last week.
Mingo.
They got Menchie coming off of IR.
Who?
So like John Mechie.
No, you're talking
You're
about somebody else now. You're
different
talking about
team.
the Texans now.
Different team.
Oh, you're right.
That's why it's up there. You see that?
Yeah, I messed up.
Sorry.
I know you're not going to edit that out. So you know.
No, I'm not going to edit that out.
I do like his receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blanking on the guy Mingo. Is that who they drafted?
Yeah, Jonathan Mingo.
Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
quality.
I like Mingo a lot.
I think I like their tight end. I don't think the
like
running
it
back
a lot.
situation is bad.
Yeah.
So to me, I think Bryce is somebody who is going to start stronger and he's going to be good for the 4 years. And then I think injuries might take him out. But I don't care.
Okay,
'cause,
yeah,
you know,
that's true. All right, Mark, round 2.
So
Who you got?
Round 2. My guy is still there. We haven't talked about him yet. I think CJ Stroud is the de facto number 2 here for me because CJ Stroud I think is going to come into a situation where he's going to be again starting immediately.
Me and you are simpatico today.
We're right there, man.
yeah, no, that's
We're right there. I know,
Respectful.
parallel right here.
Yeah.
But I think he's coming into a situation where they're trying to get a lot of weapons on this team. You just mentioned John Mechie coming back for C.J. Stroud. Damian Pierce was a friggin' delight last year and a shocker with the value they got with him
You
in
go
the
bring
draft.
Singletary in.
They bring in Singletary for some depth there. You bring in Dalton Schultz to
Yeah.
shore up the tight end position.
Yep.
They bring in the veteran Robert Woods for some of these young receivers.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're kind of cooking here. So I like Stroud a lot. When it's always hard to make heads or tails out of a lot of the reports that you read online. I don't know how true it is that that he's not bright. I mean,
I don't buy
everything that I've seen with him, I think that shows that he is definitely a pretty bright quarterback. And I think he's got a lot of tools in his bag. I don't think he got to showcase everything at the Ohio State either. I think he's
He
got a
didn't
lot
need
more
to.
to prove.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he had unbelievable wide receivers.
Yeah.
So the knock on him is, his receivers aren't going to beat coverage like those guys beat coverage routinely. He's not going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not going to have Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Not
He's
gonna have-
He's not
yeah.
going to have
Emeka.
Onunkwu or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
He's not going to have these guys that are just going to beat press coverage immediately and they're going to be open all the time.
Can I help you out there? or-
Yeah.
Okay. So to that
Please.
point, let's talk about the offensive system here. Who they came up under, the Shanahans.
Yep.
What do they do for their quarterbacks? They make things as easy as possible.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud, accurate, pinpoint accurate quarterback, right? He's got the receivers now. They're not highly touted guys, but it's a talented group of receivers. They're going to make the offense easy on them. And to your point,
You're right.
they're going to, the same way he's not going to have these wide receivers wide open like he did in college, he's going to be able to show other things. Like, I think that he's going to run more, scramble more in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yep.
The game against Georgia,
He showed out.
the bad
He showed
weather
he had
game against Northwestern, right?
Yep.
He
Yep.
was able to show that
79-yard
he's
touchdown. Yep.
functional athleticism. It's there, and this is why I have him over Young. The build, he's going to get
He's
those
6'3",
carries.
209 pounds. He can add
He's
more
going to
weight.
get those carries. The easiest play to score on in the NFL right now for fantasy is that QB sneak from 2 yards out.
Yep.
It's me, and it's, trust me, what Hurts did last year is not going to go
#trending.
It's not going to go unexplored. It's going to be the new rage, and I'm telling you, you want a guy like that, especially on your fantasy team, that we get inside the 5. I got like a 50, 60, 40 chance that he might be sneaking this in. You're not getting that with Young.
And okay, Stroud was my number 2 also. And for every reason you're saying, he's an above average accurate quarterback. Yeah, he didn't have to, he didn't have to look as accurate as he was at Ohio State because they were normally open by 5 yards.
Yeah.
But in games where he had to, against Georgia, I mean, they had press man coverage, they had NFL corners, and he was still threading that needle and getting it to him.
And it's not even just accuracy; it's ball placement and stuff like that.
Decision making.
I don't buy at all that he's below average intelligence. I didn't see slow processing speed, and I think he is going to run more, like you said. I think he's a complete
Did
package.
anybody look at the tape on Mitch Trubisky when he was coming out of college, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
Guy can't get off his first receiver.
And here's the other thing. In contrast, we're gonna go. You got to go first. But for Stroud, the Texans, even though they made all these trades and they still have a lot of draft capital.
They do. Yeah.
They're going to be able to put more guys around them in the next. So
Well,
we're
and their
looking
defense is going to be, I think, much improved too.
Yeah.
Their defense is going to be good.
Yeah.
They have 3 first-round talents on the offensive line. They went and grabbed another piece in the second round.
Yep.
Who did they brought in somebody too?
Laramie Tunsil.
No, I'm saying they brought somebody else in, a veteran. Like, they're going to be solid up
Yeah.
front, more than solid.
Yeah.
They're going to be pretty good. And going forward in your dynasty team, this is a guy that I think is going to start right away. I think will be productive, and then they're going to get better.
Yeah.
Like, I like the coaching staff there. So
Well, and his
Shaq
comp is
Mason.
that,
I think you were thinking of Shaq Mason.
Jack Mason, there you go.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
only
they got
again,
they got good old Juice Scruggs for some depth too.
everybody's talking about his NFL comp is Goff, and I don't disagree, but I think he's much more mobile. Than
Oh
Goff.
no, he's much more.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's just lazy.
His accuracy, yeah, maybe.
Goff had a little bit of wiggle on him when he first came into the league.
Yeah. Anyways, but I think we're all in agreement on number 2.
And I think Houston did the right thing too. They rolled the dice. They gambled on a couple of very underrated receivers in this draft too, and Nathaniel Dell and Xavier
Yeah.
Hutchinson.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 guys that they can get behind. Robert Woods. They can get behind Nico Collins.
Yep.
I think Johnny Mechie. This just feels like a feel-good story in the making, right? To come back after missing his rookie season with that
Yeah.
horrible affliction.
Well, and I was high on him last year. Like, had he not, all of a sudden come
I
down
think we
with
talked
this-
about it
Yeah,
a
we were
lot.
really high on him. So
Yeah, the big difference between Stroud and Richardson for me was just the raw talent with Richardson.
yeah,
That's what separated. But I like the
I think you're
situation
right
probably
there.
the best out of the 3.
Yeah.
These 3 we talked about so far.
So now for me, my third, we still haven't gotten to Bryce Young for me, and then we'll touch on that, my reasons for that when we get to him on the list.
Yeah.
Third for me in a dynasty is Will Levis.
Okay.
I think he's got to be right. He's got all those attributes as well. I mean, we see the picks, man. The picks are amazing. Them pecs, them arms. The guy can hurl the rock. And he does have in his bag good decision making. He's been accurate in the past. He's coming into a situation where, Tannehill's flaming out. The Titans did something that a lot of teams in the NFL should sooner than they do, and that's to swallow your pride after you miss on a highly picked quarterback.
Yeah.
So obviously Malik
Like,
is
he's
not
going to be released, huh?
Yeah, I mean the writing's on the wall, right?
Yeah.
So to come out and get Will Levis there and to trade up to get him at that spot, knowing that he would fall, I think the writing's on the wall that they're already ready to move on from Malik Willis. They bought into that hype train last year, that like last second, like, oh, here's the surprise quarterback, and then the Titans got caught up in that rage and they took him thinking that they could sit him behind Tannehill. Well, things have changed, right? Because the Titans aren't really. They're not beating down anybody's door with that wide receiver core. They have Trey Burks. outside of that, it's a bunch of plug and play type of guys. Obviously, you have King Henry, and in Tennessee, you're running the ball. When you're not running the ball, you're running the ball some more. And they haven't really had to depend on quarterback play all that much. And when they did, Tannehill was one of those very mobile quarterbacks, one of those sneaky mobile quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
So I think you bring in Levis, who's very athletic. I think he may not start this first year, but stash him in Dynasty, because what they're doing with this team, I mean, like I said, Treylon Burks is this is his second year. So going forward, I do. He's a monster. Going forward, they're going to have to buy in with young talent as weapons. And for me, teams that grow and mold those guys together, young quarterback, young receivers, young backs, I think are teams that are successful down the road because they really get that chemistry pretty quickly. So I like Levis here at 3.
Okay, so this is where I had AR, and the only reason is I'm a little bit less sure that they're going to feel the need to rush him. Yeah. They know that he is a project. Like, they know he's Lamar Jackson physical attributes, even quicker, even bigger, but he isn't even, at least in college, wasn't even as accurate as Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. So I think that they're going to feel like, hey, let's work him slowly. Let's, maybe at the bye, bring him in. So that's why, the only reason why he was 3rd, but I'll go ahead and say that Will was my number 4.
Well, let me ask you something with Richardson that I forgot to mention earlier. I think there is something to Florida not really producing quarterbacks in recent memory.
Yeah, their system doesn't favor... Well, their system is just trying to win games in college. They're not always trying to develop QBs.
So I think there's a chance we could see a little,
for sure,
a jump in his accuracy just based on
good coach
mechanics being coached up. Yeah. But the other thing is, like what you're saying about him starting mid-season, I don't think the Colts are in a rebuild with the rest of their roster.
No.
They're in a super weak division. Let's say a winnable division.
Yes.
Right? The moves they made, I don't see them packing it in.
I don't
starting
see them sitting on this
for
guy
half a year.
I mean, if this was Phillip Rivers,
let me point something else out. Sorry. So just a little tip for fantasy guys. Another good thing to do is watch post-draft press conferences, right? And they talked about him in the post-draft. The GM said, what did he say? He said experience is from gameplay. He said, we get experience. We think the best way to develop development is playing the games. That's how you develop players. He said that. And that was in reference to Richardson. So you could get little gems from these guys when you watch after the draft what they have to say about players. There's a few guys that we're going to talk about in the next few episodes that just going through watching those, you get a lot of little nuggets. But he said that. So that leads me to believe they're not going to sit on him if that's
I don't
mantra.
disagree. I don't disagree that there's a way for him to start game 1. If it was Rivers, if it was an aging Matt Ryan, I am somebody who is high on Gardner. Like, he is a competent, and if you look at the Colts' first 4 games, they're winnable, even with a competent quarterback. So because they may actually be trying to win this year. Maybe you take a step and just let them develop a little bit slower.
Yeah, well, that's why I said week 1 or 2.
Yeah,
but again, I think you're right. I don't think they have to wait on him because he's got a couple of attributes that NFL execs love. He's coachable. Yeah. And not only is he coachable,
and he's a gym rat.
He wants to be coached up. The guy is humble, and he has to. If you're connecting the dots here, right? So Florida is not historically.
Great at producing quarterbacks.
Great at producing quarterbacks. Also like
Danny Werfel.
Well, I mean, he was a shit NFL quarterback.
Danny Cannell. Oh no, that's Florida State.
Just like the Ohio State University, 2 dominant teams in college that never produced quarterbacks. And if you're connecting the dots,
Justin Fields,
Urban Meyer,
CJ Stroud.
There you go. I think this guy. I think he stuck his hand down the pants at both of these universities and really jacked them off in the quarterback.
Wow,
perfect segue for our next guy, Hendon Hooker. No, I'm joking. Yeah. All right.
So now, who did you have?
So my 3rd is Bryce Young, and I think a lot of the stuff you guys said makes sense. He's a talented guy. The reason I have him here is size. For fantasy purposes, I don't think he's going to be running as much in the NFL. I think they're going to discourage it. He's just so small. I don't think you can have him. What he did in college, I don't see it happening at NFL level. He's not getting those carries.
Is he smaller than Kyler Murray?
I think it's comparable, isn't it?
He's comparable, but he's not Kyler Murray running the ball either.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Kyler Murray runs like a running back.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray runs like a running back, but
he's got an ass on him too.
He does have an ass on him.
He's not small below the waist.
That's fair.
He's got a peach on him for sure.
So I'm just saying, Young is a little more slight than him, and so like.
But I think he's going to run because he has to.
He's going to scramble. He's going to scramble a lot.
Yeah,
he might have to. It worries me. Does he miss? I don't know. Yeah. If I'm taking him and Richardson, and I'm saying I'm going to get upside from running from one of these guys, and I'm banking on that in fantasy, I'm going with him. And moving forward for Young, they don't have as much draft capital to put stuff around him. Like, I love Mingo, but then what? Like, I don't love their running backs.
Yeah, they have. Well, they brought in Miles Sanders, who I think
I don't love their running backs.
I don't love them, but I think this is going to be Miles Sanders' year because I think they're going to just feed this dude.
Why do you think that?
Crazy.
History would say that Miles Sanders disappoints and underperforms. Besides last year.
Yeah, well, but also, I mean, look at the situation that he's been in Philly too, right? So up until like Jalen Hurts, they really hadn't had like consistent quarterback play. And then you bring in Hurts, and then Hurts is Hurts is vulturing everything at the goal line.
Yeah.
Hurts is very mobile, so they didn't have to use Miles as much. But Miles is a fantastic receiving back out of the backfield. And I think honestly, the reason why I have Young here at 4 is because just the points that you're mentioning is that he's gonna have to scramble a lot. I don't think he makes very good decisions. If there's one thing that I've learned, you have to believe what your eyes see, and especially when it comes to these camp pictures. Have you seen the latest picture of him standing around his offensive line? Like, it's insane. Like, this dude has zero vision above these guys.
Oh, boy.
He is tiny. I mean, if I learned anything years ago, I stayed away from Eddie Lacy because they showed pictures of Eddie Lacy in camp where he was ballooned up to like 320. And everybody was high on Lacy. And I'm like, if that fat bastard can't lose 60 pounds before the season, this dude is not going to have the stamina to play all at the time, 16 games. So I believe what I'm seeing in these pictures. And I think you take somebody who's not quite as athletic as the other quarterbacks that we've mentioned, you put him behind that monster line that he's going to have trouble seeing over with weapons that aren't the greatest, and him not making decisions in time. You're going to get a lot of scrambling out of him. I think you're going to see a lot of dump-off passes. I honestly think out of all these guys, I think he's probably going to fumble the most too.
So one thing I wanted to say, going back to your point about Miles Sanders, 60% in Alabama, 60% of the touchdowns near the goal line were quick outs to his running backs or his tight ends. So I think you're right. I think Sanders could have a good year. Yeah. But I like the coach. I like Frank. I think he's a quarterback developer.
Another guy Yeah.
I think
Frankie.
Or F. Frankie Roger.
He calls him F sometimes.
I mean, we're on a first name basis, but I think he's going to design a offense that allows for him to find the gaps in the lines. I think he's going to take kind of a page from what New Orleans did with Drew Brees, who, I don't care what people said, he was not 5'11 and a half.
So what I'm hearing right now is you're comparing Bryce Young to Drew Brees is what it sounds like to me. And all of our listeners.
I've heard that a lot, though.
You said something I disagree with. You said he makes bad decisions. I didn't see that in college. I saw an incredibly quick processor. In fact, I would say of all the quarterbacks drafted, I think he's 1 or 2 in processing speed. So I think they're going to develop an offense where he finds the gaps and he finds the quick outs. And if he doesn't have it, he'll tuck it in a run.
Again, I challenge that processing speed when it comes to these big schools with these dynamic wide receivers. How much do you really have to process when you drop back and your dude is already 10? He's already beaten coverage by 10 yards.
Yeah, but of the teams we're talking about, Ohio State, better receivers.
But a lot of
Alabama has good receivers, but not quite as good.
A lot of the film that I watched showed that he had a tough time getting through his progressions too. A lot of times he locked on to 1 and 2, and I mean, goddamn, they had hogs for an offensive line, dude. He had all day long to throw. I mean, he could have gone through his progression 4 times before he finally picked somebody out.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Anyways, but I think we're all kind of in the same ballpark because you've got Young fourth.
Yeah.
I've got Will Levis fourth. I think he's a generational talent.
I got Will Levis fourth too. Yeah.
Well, I think, and maybe you'll differ a little bit, but I think he's got a very clear path by the middle point of this year to replace Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
I think the Malik experience is over. I do think he's got some learning to do, but my gosh, 6'4", he's huge. He's quick enough. Yeah, he's huge, as Trump would say.
He might be your new Jimmy G.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's quite that. I
He'll
don't
grow-
think
he'll grow
dark.
on you.
He'll grow on
No, I like dark.
like dark?
sultry. Yeah, little ethnic to him, little Italian.
Come on, baby.
So, but I do think he is got a clear path to taking over by midseason. I think he's better than what we think. I like, again, the weapons he's got. I love King Henry.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have him at least this year. So that's where I put Will.
Yeah, same thing. It's the path for me. So let me make something clear about how I'm thinking here. After these first three guys we talked about, I think those are like your bona fide guys. Like, you're picking this guy and you're counting on them to start at least 3 years and produce for you, hopefully more, right? I think when you get into the Will Levis range, I'm looking for something a little, different. I don't think the upside is as high with him, honestly. But I do think based on where he went, I think you're looking at a solid starter that could get you, best case scenario, he's hovering right around QB1.
Well, he probably runs
year.
50. He could run 50 yards a game. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't count on 50 yards a game, but I get there's rushing upside with him. Yeah. I just think he's a tick below these guys for me, but I feel like he's where you're going to probably be able to get him in your draft.
Yeah,
I think he's just what you need. He's not too dangerous. He's not.
He kind of reminds me of a young Ryan Tannehill a little bit.
He's
got some wiggle
there. You know what I mean?
But what I do like about this is if you look at that Tennessee roster, I think they're ready to turn it over.
Yes.
And that's what I love about this because they're not just going to turn over one or two pieces that they're missing and now you have to plug in a rookie quarterback. They're gonna take the shovel. They're gonna turn the whole entire bed up.
Yeah.
They're gonna turn everything over.
They're gonna trade Henry and get some picks. They're gonna,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they do. And I think they will. I think this is the season. If Tennessee finds themselves in a position where they're on the outside looking in early in the season, King Henry is going to get shipped somewhere to a contender for a massive, well, maybe not massive, but like a decent return.
Decent.
In the next couple of drafts where Tennessee is then just going to turn it over. They're going to bring in all these weapons. Now, I did just read a report recently that apparently Tyjae Spears was a little bit more injured than was led on to be when he was drafted and where he was drafted. I don't think this is possible at all, but I've read reports where like he actually has like no ACL because he's had like full thickness damage to the ACL.
Oh, wow.
But they go and they can replace ACL anyway. But I think there's some truth to that though, right? So I think Tyjae Spears might not be ready to obviously take over this backfield. So maybe some of that capital that they'll get back with King Henry, they can flip into, a high running back next year, like a Bijan Robinson bringing in, to Tennessee, bringing another good second round wide receiver to match with Treylon Burks, and they got Chig.
Well, why wouldn't you, if the season starts off, it's not going that well, like you say, you start the overhaul and you tank for Marvin Harrison, who everybody's saying is a generational wide receiver. You put him and Treylon Burks. That's a scary one
scary.
too.
Yeah, let me make
with
myself clear. What I was saying is, I think he's a solid pick because, unlike these other three guys, like I don't think he'll ever be a top 3 fantasy quarterback. That's what I'm saying. But I think he'll crack.
Who would your comp be?
Like play style wise or like player wise for fantasy?
I guess either one because I would say player wise for fantasy since we're talking about fantasy scoring.
Ooh. Let me think.
He's not as good as Jalen Hurts. He's not going to run as much.
No, I think production-wise, what I'm saying is that him slotting in at 4 for me, 4-5, but 4th in this draft is perfect because I think he's a guy, if things work out because of the path with the Titans, their track record, I think he could be a guy that cracks top 10 after his first year and can stay there for a few years. That's what I'm saying. He's a solid pick.
Yeah. Now, out of the 3 that because I didn't have all 3 of these guys ahead of him either because I did have Will Levis 3rd. I think Anthony Richardson is the only one that has the upside of possibly being like a top 5 quarterback in the future. I don't think the other 2 necessarily do.
I think Stroud maybe.
Maybe. But I tell you what, I think a comparison to Will Levis and if how I see his career going, his trajectory is going to be exactly like Kirk Cousins. You got a very.
It's not a bad comp, but he's got a little bit more speed.
It's you've got more speed. That's
Cousins,
just it. He's
Cousins
a little bit,
was a little jumpy when he was young, though.
Yeah. But I think Will Levis is a different kind of jumpy.
So early on, you're going to get out of Will Levis. Early on, you're going to get. You're going to get some flashes, right? Like you did from Cousins early in his career in Washington, right? And then you're going to see that kind of transition slowly but surely over the seasons into consistency. And then you're always talking about Kirk Cousins is the quarterback that everybody loves to hate in fantasy drafts. He's that first quarterback at the end of QB1, beginning of QB2 that you're like, do I take him or do I roll the dice and, see if Trey Lance has a good season this season? You know what I mean? Like Kirk never gets the respect that he truly deserves.
The guy you take, but you hate taking, Yeah.
He's like a Big Mac.
Because he's not flashy. Well, I mean, he's flashy,
Always
but he's
satisfying.
He's like a Big Mac. He's
always
like, it's
satisfying.
never the first choice, but in a fix, hits the spot.
Yeah. I mean, you ain't going to say no to it,
Gets the job done.
It's the history there, It's got a little Big Mac sauce dripping.
Oh, yeah, that's always good. You're getting me hungry. All right, Mark, go ahead. Hit us
Who's
with
your number 5?
Last guy here.
Number 5, this is tough. I think by default, I'm gonna take Hendon Hooker here, and I think it's because at some point he is going to take over the reins in Detroit. I do think that Goff, for me, Goff is super underrated, man. The guy went to a goddamn Super Bowl. If it wasn't for Todd Gurley not being able to play at all in that game, it might be a different situation. Jared Goff is a very, very good quarterback, and he's very smart. And I think he's still young. I think he's 31. So I mean, he's still got some game left in him. But I don't know if Detroit wants to commit to him because I think Detroit is looking for that. Here's our future quarterback. Here's our franchise guy. We've never had a franchise guy. We don't want to bring in somebody else's, expected franchise guy and make him our franchise guy. We want to kind of farm our own. And I think that's where Hendon Hooker falls into here. There's a couple other guys I would like to, I think the Rams get instant veteran leadership with Stetson Bennett.
He's the oldest.
You bring in a guy that's already older than Matt Stafford, to kind of like teach him the ways of the world a little bit.
Not fair.
But
not fair to Bennett.
Yeah.
But
I like Bennett's story.
His name is there a more southern name?
Stetson
Bennett the third. Like
Bennett.
I always think,
it's
like
not Bennis.
Bennett.
You said Bennis.
Oh, Bennett.
Like
the
Elaine
third.
Bennis.
Yeah. I was trying to do my southern accent, like my Colonel Sanders. Because
he looks like he should be a Colonel Sanders.
Yeah,
Stetson.
I picture in their family photo at Christmas, they're all wearing the Colonel Sanders suit.
Stetson Bennett.
When your grandpapa came over here and, I
Stetson, Mama's got a fig pie on the windowsill. You want
to
grab that from Mama?
Fig pie. Well, I am from Cleveland. What do you want?
Stetson, do Mama a favor. Grab that laundry off of the laundry line out there after you're done playing with that pigskin.
But I think
with Daddy.
But I think it's probably evident that they probably had servants. Like his family.
Oh, wow.
That's a name. That's a name that says
Stetson?
Southern plantation owner.
Stetson.
You don't name your son Stetson.
We're here.
So he's giving you some Leo from Django Unchained vibes.
We're here. We are the Bennetts.
Yeah. Anyways, but I had Hendon Hooker as 5th also. I agree with you, and I don't see as clear of a path because Goff is one of those guys who they could like what they see as Hendon starts getting healthy and say he's the future, but they might stick with Goff because he's so consistent.
Yeah.
So I was debating between him and another person, but we'll save that for after. But I did have Hooker. I wanted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to draft him. I think that one of their biggest mistakes is they have nobody. And when I say they have Mayfield, that's a note. That's their best quarterback on the roster.
Kyle Trask season.
Kyle Trask.
Yeah, but I mean, they must not believe in him.
No, they don't believe him.
So to me, I wanted them to draft him.
How can you believe in it, dude? Again, believe what your eyes see. That film where he overthrows he didn't even throw the right route to the receiver during his pro day.
It was bad, yeah.
It was horrible.
In a pro day when you're scripted, what you know.
I think the X factor with Hooker, though,
His name.
Again, yeah, I do like that name.
I like both names. Hendon. I like that.
It's a good
strong
football name.
Yeah.
On the back of a jersey, think of the merch sales.
6'3", he's big.
Who's not going to want? Who's
sounds
not
like he's a dart player. Hendon Hooker.
Who's not going to want to buy a jersey with Hooker on the back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be the most
maybe
popular.
Women.
I don't
No,
know,
I think
man.
more women
Yeah.
will buy the jersey.
Fair.
Are you done? Are you done?
Yeah. So I think the X factor in Hooker possibly seeing the field before he's even ready is I think Jamison Williams really may have screwed Jared Goff's future potentially.
Oh wow!
Because Jared Goff was finally going to start a season with a loaded gun, and Jamison goes and gets suspended for the first 6 games, and now it's going to be the Amon-Ra St. Brown show. By the way, he just upticked big time in fantasy in your fantasy rankings because for the first 6 weeks it is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown or bust.
13 targets a game, hopefully.
At least.
So who was your 5?
All right, so I'm going a little different here, and this is what I'll say. Same way in that range with Levis that I'm looking for, a
Upside.
solid pick. Well, not upside. I think the upside is with the other guys. I just think he's solid.
Okay.
Here I'm swinging for the fences. And it's the guy you mentioned earlier, and I did a little bit of research. I'm going with Jaron Hall.
So that was who I was debating between.
Let me give you my reasons. First of all, situation. Cousins is probably gone after this year.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell, I'm not going out on a limb. Well, maybe a little bit. I think is an offensive mastermind. What he did last year with that offense, he took Kirk Cousins, who has been a good passer. He made that offense go. They had the 4th highest pass rate. They get Thielen out of there. They bring in Addison. They still have Hawkinson. I think it's set up on a platter. He didn't go out and get this guy for no reason.
No, they believe that he could be the potential.
Super accurate.
Yep.
Little undersized, right? But super accurate. I think over 30 touchdowns last year, only 6 picks, high completion percentage, a smart player. They went and got him for a reason. And I don't see them next year going and bringing in another guy. The roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is set up to win and contend now. They just won the division last year. I think this is rolling out the red carpet, letting Kirk Cousins show him the ropes, and they plug him next year. I don't see them bringing in a big money quarterback. How long is Kirk signed for? He's done after this year.
Yeah, so they can get away with him for nothing. They could even trade him. If a quarterback gets injured, they could trade him midseason if they feel like Jaron's ready to go.
So let's paint the scenario. It's next offseason. They finish as a wild card team. They're right in the middle of the pack. They can't draft a quarterback. And he's shown them something this year. Yep. He's stepping into an offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who's arguably the number 1 wide receiver in this draft. Guy you think, Alexander Madison, who's going to win people fantasy championships this year. Really good tight end. And a great offensive coach. That's the situation this guy's stepping into. Yeah. So if I'm swinging for the fences, I'm betting on these guys putting their chips on this guy with that talent around him.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that move. Call. Yeah, I do too. That's kind of who I was debating against. I think Hendon is more of he's going to be a consistent quarterback. I think with Jaron, you've got a little bit more upside potential because he's a dynamic passer and runner. Like he's got both. He's the 4th quickest quarterback in the 40 time, and he proved with the Cougars that he could run. So it's going to be interesting.
How about does anybody when Jordan Love blows this year? Does anybody like Sean Clifford?
No. I don't think Jordan Love's going to blow.
No,
I don't like Sean Clifford. I've watched too many games.
I'm not a huge Clifford fan.
Yeah. You just want. Yeah, but you don't want any of them to be good. So.
No, I think it's going to be that bad in Green Bay. I'm going to savor this year.
Clifford is a little bit undersized.
How sucky would it be if they didn't suck?
Well, I guess so. He's actually taller than I thought. I actually thought he was like around 6. I just have watched him blow too many games that Penn State should have won. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah,
I like how you paused on games too.
I watched him blow too many games.
He knew what he was doing.
He blew too many games.
Penn State should have beat Ohio State a couple times, and they couldn't because of stupid decisions Clifford.
All right, so let's give, just for the camera, give your rankings again in order, Mark.
Ooh, I got to remember.
1, I have Anthony Richardson. 2, I have C.J. Stroud. 3, Will the Magnificent.
Will the
Levis.
Thrill.
Will the Thrill. Bryce Young at 4, and rounding it out, Hendon Hooker.
Okay. I had Bryce Young. I think quick fantasy points. Second, I had C.J. Stroud. Then I had Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and then my fourth was Hendon Hooker.
Fifth
Fifth was Hendon Hooker.
All right, I had Mr. Anthony Richardson. Then I had C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, and then rounding it out with Jaron Hall. All right, boys, so we're going to move on to our second portion here, which is still in the fantasy breakdown, so I will not play the sounder again unless you guys really want to hear it. Let's talk about one guy, and we talked about this last year. We've had some hits, some misses, but we're going to talk about one guy, and not just any run-of-the-mill guy, a guy with a name, a guy that's has some good draft value, a guy that we're avoiding on our fantasy teams this year for whatever reason. It could be a hunch. It could be a gut feeling. It could be something more rooted in statistics or situation, whatever you want to do. Here's a chance for your hot take.
Hot taking.
You going to go first or you want to go, Rocky?
I'll let Mark go first.
Or I could go.
Yeah, you can go first, yeah.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going with a guy. Here's a guy.
Here's a guy.
I'm going with Deebo Samuel. And there's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason for me is it's looking more and more like Brock Purdy's going to be the quarterback for this team this year. And that doesn't sit well with me for a guy like Deebo that I'm going to have to pay up a little bit for, whether I'm drafting him this year or if I'm trading for him, whatever the case may be. Their splits, or Deebo's splits when he's playing with Purdy, now it's not a large sample size, but he's down everywhere. Every stat you could think of for Deebo Samuel is down. Not by huge margins, but it's down. The production is not the same. And the other thing I'll say is we're going to have a full offseason with Christian McCaffrey in the fold. I think a lot of those gadget things that Deebo did in his best year, his superstar year, are going to be eaten into it with McCaffrey. I think it's going to take a sizable chunk out of his workload when McCaffrey they have a chance to really get him integrated into the system. Injury history is there a little bit. And, what we're basing all this on for Deebo Samuel's value is really an outlier year if you look at his other years. Yardage-wise, average yards per catch, touchdowns, receptions, everything. I mean, receptions, the closest he's come to that number is about 20 receptions off. Yardage is about, he's got like 600 yards within what he did that year. So it's kind of one amazing year he had, and then it's kind of been meh outside of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Actually, I love that pick. Last year, so when you look at Deebo, and you broke it down very nicely there too. He did still see, he played 13 games and still saw 94 targets. So they're still trying to integrate him into the script.
Yeah.
But, he was one of those, and I'm trying to bring up.
What are you trying to bring up?
That way I can, I got it right here.
Okay.
Deebo's one of those guys that I avoided a lot last year too, right?
Okay.
Because I didn't like the way this whole thing, his whole career trajectory was lining up. To me, it seemed like that flash in the pan where he has that amazing season, right? So it happens in fantasy football a lot.
Yeah.
One name that really sticks out in my mind that was nowhere on the radar in early rounds, but won so many people a lot of leagues was Anquan Boldin. Right, if you remember, Anquan Boldin wasn't even the best receiver supposedly drafted that year by that team. And because of that, he fell way down the boards. But, my God, he put up monster numbers. And year after year, he at least held up, right?
Yeah.
But it was, everybody's now looking for that Anquan Boldin. And Deebo was one of those guys, right? Deebo was like on nobody's radar that year that he blew up.
Yeah.
So if you were fortunate enough, and I had him on a number of teams, if you were fortunate enough to have him, they were probably championship teams because you got him so late and his production was that of wide receiver one, and you're playing him in your second flex.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking at the stats and what San Fran does, and then who San Fran has been carouseling through a quarterback, it just didn't line up for consistency for me anyway. Yeah. And I think you're on that same path too, and that's why I like how you broke this down. And I mean, aside from that year, that 2021 season with the 1405, 121 for 1405.
Yeah.
I mean, his rookie year, 81 for 802. He had an injury-plagued 2020, but only 33 catches for 391. And I'm sorry, 2019, that 81 was even target, so we had 57 catches for 802.
57, 56, 33 is other reception totals.
So, with Debo, you're banking.
What is that?
Yeah. You're banking on big playability, right? Yeah. Because he's got a career average of 14.5 yards per reception. So you're banking on Debo getting the ball and making something out of it, right? So
but to be fair, right, even that's buoyed by that year, which is 18.2.
18.2.
And the you have 11.8, 11.3, and 14.1 in his rookie year.
He also, he still averaged over a first down though every time he caught the ball, which is impressive. It's impressive as a wide receiver, right?
But where are you getting him, right?
Well, that's it. Yeah, but I think you're going to overpay to.
But now you have to pay a premium. You have to get him in the second, third round, and great call. That's one guy that I am not paying a premium on that early.
And George Kittle's another one. Just to throw it out there on that team.
Well, that's it. Yeah, because I think your Kittle, he was injured, but came back, looked pretty good, especially toward the end of the season.
Inconsistent, though.
Yeah, inconsistent, but he's still another capable receiver.
Yes, yeah.
Even more, I like Brandon. People are sleeping a little bit on Brandon Ayuk. 78 receptions, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. The previous 2 years were 56 and 60. This is a capable receiver. He's not as dynamic as Debo, but we don't really know yet. The body of work on Brock Purdy is still out. It's only 6 games? Yeah. So it seemed to be toward the end of the year that he looked more toward Kittle and Ayuk.
Yeah.
So
you and your body of work.
Body of work.
All right, so who's next?
So I can transition. If we're talking wide receivers, here's another guy that I'm not paying the premium in the second and third round. And, statistically speaking, people are going to try to rip me because of the targets that he demands. I just don't like his situation this year, and that's Terry McLaurin. I'm not willing to go out and pay that second, third round premium for Terry McLaurin with Sam Howell as his quarterback throwing the ball. They have a lot of other playmakers in that offense. They have 2 running backs that they like to get the ball into the hands of.
Dotson.
They have Dotson.
Yeah,
they
look good, and you got Diami Brown still too.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel, too. Logan Thomas. Yeah. There's a lot of ball there to be spread around. And by who?
He's knocking me for body of work.
And
it's a lot of ball there.
And who's spreading that ball around? I don't know how big his balls are, Sam Howell. He's going to have to get in there and prove it, right?
He's got extra.
Yeah. So what round would Terry be a steal?
Oh man, late 6th, early 7th.
If I got him 6th, 7th round, and he was, so say I peeled off, say I went running back, and then peeled off a bunch of receivers, right? So say it's like a 2 running back, 3 wide receiver flex league. I get him in round 6, 7 as my wide receiver 4.
You're pretty excited about the potential.
Wow, dude, you're ecstatic. Having him at your wide receiver 4, and he has fallen somewhat early in the season in drafts, but then you get into some of the bigger leagues and you're seeing him go 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, but. I don't feel comfortable touching him until I get 6 through 8, somewhere around there.
Well, or until we know how good Sam's going to be or whoever the quarterback is.
And again,
if you're high on Sam, maybe go for it.
Yeah, and again, I get it. the guy averages 120 targets a year. He's averaged, what is this? He's probably 75 receptions a year.
Yeah.
But he's always hovering right around that 1,000-yard mark. He's never blown by. He's never Jay Jetta's.
But to be fair to him, he's never really had the quarterback,
and he's not going to.
Carson Wentz.
Exactly. So
the pride of Philadelphia.
One of the
greatest quarterbacks.
One of the greatest quarterbacks for the Eagles of all time. Definitely better than Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And Kevin Kolb. And we can go down the list. Jalen Hurts, better than all those guys.
Ty Detmer.
I like Ty.
All right, who you got, Rob?
Didn't Ty's brother play for Philly too? Didn't they both play for Philly?
Yeah, the Detmers were around for a while. Both, they were kind of who's the other guy? The other tandem.
You guys drafted Ty, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We like our slow white quarterbacks.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah. So my guy is Javonte Williams. He had a great game 1 last year. Looked like he was going to come out of the gate like
gangbusters.
Gangbusters. Games 2 and 3 were incredibly weak, and then he tore his ACL, which is a hard injury to come back from. Mm-hmm. Less hard than it used to be, but still like to me, I don't think we're going to see the Javonte until
next
halfway
season,
through,
maybe,
or maybe
yeah.
halfway through the season. I don't like that they got Samaje Perine, who I think's a tremendous running back and even a better receiver, and who in limited action looked as good as Joe Mixon last year.
That might be the guy you want to go grab, as a matter of fact.
That's to me. I think people are going to overvalue Williams, and you can get Samaje. I also don't like that they hung on to Latavius Murray, who isn't flashy, but everywhere he's been has been pretty solid.
Yeah, so Latavius did move on. He's in Buffalo now.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm bad, man. This guy.
Yeah, you
Jesus.
got to get it together.
Yeah, I get it together. I'm reading off this too. But anyways, I do like. I just don't love the setup, and I think the best you can hope for with Williams is that the second half he looks great.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to have to draft him too high to make that work.
Stay away from guys with injuries. That's how I mean.
Yeah,
it's a
especially
headache.
running backs.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do like that's set up for Javonte Williams here is that he has had almost an entire year to rehab it. It's not like he did it, towards the end of the season.
No, you're
He
right
did
about
it
that.
Game 1. So I mean, he's had a lot of time. But I have read reports where he's had some setbacks, and when that
there's
happens,
a slow recovery.
whenever there's slow recovery, one running back that comes to mind, a homer guy here, is Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen, incredible talent.
Yeah.
He just had setback after setback after setback with his injury and never got back on the field.
Well, if you
and
rush him back too
it's a
quick, it's an injury, re-injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, and quick little hint or tip here. Let me start that over. Cut that maybe. That little.
Nah, we're not cutting
No,
that.
just go.
No,
You like-
man. I thought we were doing
Hey,
cutting. I thought we were doing like
no.
professional shit now.
You like a little
No, that's
tip.
part of the show.
Come on, let's
We're
be
not
honest.
on ESPN.
All
You
right.
like a little tip, big tip,
You
medium
make
tip.
it worse when you do that
just
part.
got it. Well, now you got to cut it.
No, we don't. Yeah.
So-
Leave it all in there, guy.
Coming up in future episodes, we're going to go over a lot of different strategies in drafting fantasy football.
Yeah.
One of them is the zero running back theory, and the only reason why I want to bring this up is because you named a prime candidate. If you're going to draft zero running back theory and you're going to wait until the absolute later rounds, so you're just stacking your wide receiver core, you're getting a fantastic tight end, you're getting a solid quarterback, and you're waiting on running back. Samaje Perine is one of those guys that falls into that category that you target during a zero running back theory type of draft.
Yeah.
All right, so one little pushback I'll give to you on what he was saying is I think a lot of times with the ACL, the bigger thing is mentally.
Yeah.
Because I think we've gotten, obviously these guys work hard to rehab, so I'm not trying to downplay that. But, it's pretty routine now, ACL reconstructions. So I think most guys bounce back physically, the majority. I think it's the hurdle of the mental thing, feeling comfortable on the leg.
Yeah.
Like, look at Saquon Barkley coming back from the ACL, not this past season, but before.
Yeah, he was different.
He was still kind of tentative, and then he comes out the gate this year, looks like Saquon Barkley again.
Yeah.
So I think that's something with Javonte. You're hoping because it's been so long, maybe halfway through the season, he's confident again in it. But there could be a little bit of a slowness out of the gate with him.
Well, and to me, running back is one of those positions where, because I agree, medically he's going to be fine. Medically, he's had plenty of time to heal. Mentally is where I'm a little bit concerned. And running back seems to be, a lot of coaches go with the hot hand. So if he's a little bit reticent to run or give it his all, Samaje is, listen, that guy is running.
Yeah,
he's running because he was a late round draft. He wants to prove who he is. And so all of a sudden he's
at the tender age of 37, he's going to get his chance to do it.
You know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden he has a couple great games.
Yeah.
Man, most coaches don't want to go away. And Sean Payton, see, I used his last name for you.
Yeah.
No, I like how you paused.
But
Though
you realized
you were going to use the
I was
first
going to say
name.
just Sean. Shawnee and I, when we talk,
You and Sean.
Shawnee
go
likes
way
the
back.
hot. Shawnee likes the hot hand.
Yeah. No, you guys. Yeah.
Likes the hot hand, man.
if anybody
Sean.
knows, you do.
Yeah. Speaking of hot, this room's like a freaking hothouse.
Dude, I am sweating to death. I was actually just thinking about how my face is probably glistening.
All right. Well, that being said, listen, guys, that's the show. We hope you come back next week. But until then, you can find us on all our socials: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, especially YouTube at GOM Podcast. The guys on network at YouTube, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Spotify,
Rocky's on OnlyFans now.
Apple
I am,
Music.
yeah.
You could, wow.
Just my nips.
Listen to us there. Please comment. Listen, go to TikTok, go to Instagram, our reels. We're getting a lot of
A
lot
play.
of discussion going on our clips. Go back and forth with some of the other people listening. A lot of people have a lot of opinions. Let's hear yours, right?
Yeah.
We love you.
Guys
Peace.
on sports, man. Fantasy football, real results. Come on.
Peace.